now. Might I have some space, please? I'm busy. Busy, yes. Preoccupied. It means I am otherwise engrossed. Aha! Yes. No. Don't spare the intruders! Hey. Help me. The dark. It calls us. It kills us. A creature hides in the dark, calls to us. Kin against kin, kin against kin. Kin light, light the blight. The only way, light the blight. Oh, I saw it. Riding a dran. Others came, killed him. And they killed each other, until there was only one left. And the creature grabbed the one. Grabbed him, took him, and feasted. And I wanted it too. Take me, fill me, kill me, but no. I ran. Nothing good, that feeling. I ran here, and I stay here. But still, oh, I killed Harry, Nate. Kill him. Kill you. Kill anyone. No, no. I wasn't. Dunno. No, stay away from it. Changed. And after everything, that drama became popular. And before that, soon, it was all dead. Good! Yes! But no, stay away from the shadows. Because if you don't, kill the kin, and it takes you, kin against kin. Seize the day. Help! Don't find it, mate. Don't take it. Run, and run, and run! Yes! Good! Yeah! But stay away from the shadows. Yeah, moving in the dark.
All right, come and get it.
through the portal, typically in the Forgotten Grove. That's where I found most of mine, but you can find these anywhere in an outdoor area. But there is a specific time frame that you have, typically in the Forgotten Grove. That's where I found most. You can go talk to Mudtooth, and what you want to do is continue to ask him to tell you stories until he runs out. You'll get the Gunslinger Band, you'll get the Gunslinger Amulet, and eventually you'll get the Worn Cylinder. At this point, you can take this back to Wallace. Next is Horizon. Go forward. Beat the game on any difficulty, you'll get a broken compass, take it to Wallace, and you can catch your melee weapon, because that's a complete last realm at the end of the game. Once you get there, you want to make your way up until the first checkpoint of this giant ship. When you get dragged through the sewer grate, you're going to end up in this big bone pile. When you do that, grates. When you see these and you approach them, either nothing will happen, or a creature will come out and grab you and drag you through the sewer grate. When you get dragged through the sewer grate, you're going to end up in this big bone pile. When you do that, there's going to be the creature that dragged you through that sewer grate. You want to go ahead and kill them. Once you kill that creature, they'll drop a strange stone or mysterious stone. At that point, take that back to Wallace and you'll be able to unlock the Alchemist. Now, if you go through this whole process in side, then you're going to get an armor set and the ring instead. So it specifically has to be outside in the city in an open area rather than an inside area. So just keep that in mind. So guys, that is how to unlock every single archetype. At that point, take that back to Wallace and drag you through this.
see you, traveler. They don't like it when... Till next time.
I don't trust no one without reason. And you? You ain't giving me one yet.
Always talk about
How
getting
many
out of
times
here.
has Miss Ava thrown you out of her workshop? Have you ever been to Yesha? Mr. Dwell's been to Yesha. He talks about it all the time.
thinking of picking up some of Mudtooth's stew for dinner.
There ain't a single vegetable in that goulash. No way.
Really? Oh, very well. What? Have you... You... Ah. You... Pitiful creatures. Even more so... They dress much like this. Precisely like this, in fact. My name is Laywise, royal scribe to the one true king. Former scribe, I suppose. Pleased to make your acquaintance. Whatever might you be called?
Ồ, xin chào. Chào mừng các bạn đã quay trở lại.
Come. Sit.
Ồ, xin chào. Chào mừng các bạn đã quay trở lại. Thật vui vì chúng ta vẫn nhìn thấy những gương mặt thân quen ở đây.
Come. Sit. Listen all. Listen well.
Đó đã từng là một nơi thế giới nơi con người chỉ vì. Đó từng là một thế giới sục sôi tham vọng phát triển với những bước tiến dài của khoa học và công nghệ. Và thế giới ấy đáng nhẽ đã có thể phát triển vượt bậc, thậm chí là vượt xa thế giới của chúng ta ngày nay. Tuy nhiên, đáng tiếc thay, một bi kịch lại đã ập đến với thế giới hẵng còn non trẻ này. Không một dấu hiệu, không một lời cảnh báo, như thể xuất hiện từ hư vô, những sinh vật, không, những con quái vật kinh hoàng và méo mó với cái tên The Root tràn tới. Chúng tựa như một làn sóng của ác mộng, nuốt chửng bất kỳ sinh vật sống nào trong con người. Và loài người với không một sự chuẩn bị, không thể chống lại được làn sóng kinh hoàng này. Gần một nửa nhân loại đã bị The Root hoặc giết chết hoặc bị lây nhiễm trở thành một trong số chúng, tựa như chỉ trong một cái chớp mắt. Trong những nỗ lực yếu đuối nhằm có thể tiếp tục tồn tại, nhân loại co cụm lại với nhau thành những cộng đồng nhỏ, lẩn tránh sau những tàn tích, những bóng ma của một nền văn minh đã từng hưng thịnh. Một thế kỷ đã trôi qua, 100 năm, nói dài thì rất dài, đủ để những con quái vật The Root trở nên già cỗi. Thế nhưng vẫn là quá ngắn để loài người có thể quên đi sự khủng khiếp của chúng. Những kiến thức của nền văn minh cũ đã thất lạc đi rất nhiều, gần như chỉ còn tồn tại trong những câu chuyện kể. Để rồi, từ một cộng đồng của những người sống sót, một người anh hùng đã được chọn ra. Đó phải là người quả cảm nhất, thông tuệ nhất và dũng cảm nhất. Người đó sẽ phải băng qua đại dương để tới được một tòa tháp trơ trọi giữa biển, nơi một con rồng, kẻ đầu lĩnh của The Root, cũng như là cánh cửa kết nối với chiều không gian của The Root đang trú ngụ. Vượt biển trên một con thuyền nhỏ, người anh hùng tiến về tòa tháp, băng qua những dãy hành lang âm u, cảm nhận bầu không khí lạnh lẽo tanh mùi xì xét. Hệ thống điện của nơi này bằng một cách nào đó vẫn hoạt động. Nhờ đó mà anh có thể tới được đỉnh cao nhất của tòa tháp thông qua những chiếc thang máy cũ kỹ và rộng rãi. Truy cập vào chiếc máy tính đặt trên đỉnh tháp, người anh hùng đánh thức lại một phiến đá với những hoa văn cổ xưa, khiến nó một lần nữa tỏa ra ánh sáng. Chạm tay lên bề mặt của phiến đá, trước mắt người anh hùng là một chiều không gian khác, một thế giới hoàn toàn xa lạ. Những phiến đá này, hay còn gọi là những viên đá Warstone, đóng vai trò là những cánh cổng kết nối lại các thế giới với nhau. Nơi đầu tiên mà những viên đá này đưa anh tới là Grell. Khác với trái đất, thế giới này vẫn chưa hề có dấu hiệu của bọn The Root. Đón chào người anh hùng là một bầu không khí trong lành, không hề pha lẫn với thứ mùi hôi tanh đặc trưng của đám quái vật, một bầu không khí mà anh chưa bao giờ nghĩ rằng có thể tận hưởng. Có lẽ trái đất vẫn từng như vậy trước khi bị lũ The Root xâm lược chăng? Khác với trái đất, những kiến trúc của thế giới này được dựng lên bằng đá, tạo thành các tòa thành khổng lồ. Những cư dân bản địa của Grell có vẻ ngoài thấp bé với làn da sẫm màu, cùng đôi tai nhọn và đôi mắt sáng rực màu vàng, tựa như các yêu tinh trong những câu chuyện mà anh thường được nghe kể. Chúng khoác lên mình những bộ quần áo được may bằng vải ruộng hoặc da thú thô, tất cả đều đội một chiếc mũ trùm che khuất gương mặt, chỉ để lộ ra đôi mắt vẻ đầy hung ác. Ngay khi nhìn thấy người anh hùng, những sinh vật này liền lao về phía anh, hò hét giận dữ, đồng thời tấn công loạn xạ. Không quá bất ngờ trước sự kém hiếu khách này, người anh hùng chỉ bình tĩnh đáp trả, kiếm cùng khiêng trong tay, lúc chặn đòn, lúc phản công vô cùng chuẩn xác, chẳng mấy chốc đã dọn sạch đường đi. Càng tiến sâu vào bên trong thành, người anh hùng càng cảm thấy ngạc nhiên với những loại tạo tác mà mình bắt gặp trên đường đi. Dù rằng nền văn minh nơi đây còn lâu mới chạm tới đỉnh cao của nhân loại trong quá khứ, thậm chí ngay thời điểm hiện tại cũng có phần thua kém, nhưng tuyệt đối là kết quả của trí tuệ. Thậm chí còn có nhiều loại cơ quan kỳ lạ mà anh không thể hiểu nổi, cho thấy những sinh vật tưởng như nguyên thủy kia thực chất lại là một giống loài. Và toàn bộ giống loài của ngươi. Chào mừng các bạn đã quay trở lại video Mio. Chỉ được coi là lũ tốt thí trong binh đoàn của Root. Tuy nhiên, đổ xuống cơn mưa như chút nước. Lèo lái con thuyền nhỏ chống lại những cơn sóng như muốn nuốt chửng cả bầu trời. Nước mưa cùng gió biển như từng lưỡi dao sắc lẻm cứa sâu vào da thịt của kẻ lữ hành, lạnh buốt và đau rát. Chiếc áo len của hắn ướt sũng bởi mưa và nước biển. Cơn lạnh ngấm sâu vào tận xương tủy khiến cho hai lòng bàn tay đang nắm chặt lấy dây buồm đã tê cóng từ lâu. Chất muối mặn chát khiến miệng của hắn đắng lại cùng hai mắt đau xót. Dù vậy, kẻ lữ hành vẫn chẳng dám buông lỏng lấy một giây. Chợt, mặt nước đen ngòm liền trũng xuống, từng dòng hải lưu như rít lên dưới gầm thuyền. Ở phía phương xa, một cơn sóng thần đổ ập tới với thứ tốc độ và sức mạnh mà không một sinh vật sống nào có thể cản nổi. Nó tràn tới, uy chấn cho cả bầu trời như rung chuyển, đổ sập xuống con thuyền nhỏ cùng với kẻ lữ hành, nhấn chìm cả hai vào trong lòng nước sâu thẳm. Dù vậy, nếu không phải nhờ có cơn sóng thần này thì có lẽ số phận kẻ lữ hành cũng đã tương tự với người anh hùng rồi. Một cơn sóng nhưng lại có thể thay đổi định mệnh của cả một thế giới, quả thực là một trò đùa của số phận. Dường như kẻ lữ hành quả thực đã được nữ thần số mệnh sống lưng cho. Khi thần kỳ làm sao, anh vẫn có thể sống sót qua con sóng. Dòng nước không cuốn lấy anh mà đưa đẩy anh trôi dạt vào một bờ cát lạ. Kẻ lữ hành tỉnh dậy, nước tràn vào phổi, nôn thốc nôn tháo tống thứ nước mặn ra ngoài. Anh nhìn quanh, nơi này còn cách tòa tháp một khoảng nữa, cũng không quá xa, đủ để nhìn thấy được hình khối của nó ẩn hiện trong làn sương muối, nhưng cũng không đủ gần để có thể vượt biển mà không cần tới thuyền. Chẳng còn cách nào khác, kẻ lữ hành chỉ đành chống người đứng dậy, tiến vào sâu hơn bên trong hòn đảo này. May mắn thay, vũ khí của hắn vẫn còn nguyên, không bị vụ lật thuyền làm hỏng mất. Bước nhanh qua những tàn tích đổ nát của hòn đảo, kẻ lữ hành đã nhanh chóng nghe thấy những tiếng gầm gừ của đám Root. Lũ đi vồ với vẻ ngoài cao kều, làng vàng khắp nơi như những bóng ma. Ngay khi nhìn thấy kẻ lữ hành, liền lập tức hùa nhau xô tới tựa như một bầy kiến lửa đông đúc. Âm thanh của những chiếc xúc tu nghiến lên mặt đất khi chúng di chuyển, lướt mình một cách đầy quỷ dị, hòa với tiếng vũ khí vung lên xé rách không khí. Dù rằng đám đi vồ chỉ được coi là lũ tốt thí trong binh đoàn của Root, tuy nhiên đừng bao giờ coi thường chúng. Chỉ một cá thể đi vồ không thôi cũng là đủ nguy hiểm, chưa kể tới chúng còn hoạt động luôn theo bầy. Ngay lúc này, một bầy đi vồ như vậy đang dồn hết về phía kẻ lữ khách. Tuy nhiên, không hổ danh là người được chọn, ngay cả khi đối mặt với nguy hiểm tới tính mạng, anh vẫn chẳng hề tỏ ra có chút nào núng. Anh chỉ rút kiếm, tay trái nâng cao khiên, chân trái sải bước về phía trước một khoảng rộng, nhằm thẳng về phía những kẻ thù đang ùn ùn lao tới mà vung kiếm. Từng bước di chuyển của anh đều vô cùng uyển chuyển, đường kiếm nhanh và chính xác, vạch lên những vòng cung hoàn hảo trong không trung, tựa như nét bút vẽ lên tấm vuông trắng. Một con, hai con, ba con, mỗi đường kiếm vung lại có một con đi vồ bị chém gục, cảm giác như thể anh đang khiêu vũ giữa lòng địch vậy. Chưa có tiếng gió rít bên tai anh, kẻ lữ hành liền dựng cao tấm khiêng đón lấy đòn tấn công ập tới từ một con đi vồ trước khi dùng sức đẩy lùi nó lại. Bước chân khẽ sải thu hẹp khoảng cách với con quái vật, kiếm phạt một đường ngang thân nó, ngọt như thể cắt đậu phụ. Cơ thể con đi vồ đổ xuống, đồng thời cũng đánh dấu sự kết thúc của trận chiến chóng vánh. Xung quanh anh lúc này la liệt thi thể của đám Rút, cảnh tượng tàn khốc tới mức kinh hồn bạt vía. Dù vậy, kẻ lữ hành dường như chẳng hề để tâm đến điều đó, anh còn đang bận nhắm mắt, hàng lông mày khẽ cau lại, dường như đang chú tâm nghe ngóng gì đó. Quả nhiên, lẫn những tiếng gió bão mơ hồ có âm thanh của ai đó đang chiến đấu.
Persistent as ever, aren't you? I'll answer, but you were in my debt. Why, I know who killed. There are a great many things a royal scribe comes to know. Confidences, machinations, indiscretions, all of which. But that cognizance has. Now I cannot return. Me? But I don't know anything at all. I'm but a lonely... I seldom left the king's side. As his loyal scrivener, I put his every distinguished word to ink. There was no one more decrees. All must be recorded for posterity's sake. Yes, well, I had little choice in the matter. Every member of his court is hand-selected, and there's no refusing the one true king. He bid me to serve, and serve I did. Without some Fae took to courtly duties better than others. Not for myself. I naturally served faithfully and diligently, and without King has ever been harsh, given the nature of it, but now that one of us has actually... He has changed. Paranoia has taken reign of his senses, and in the eyes of a... Perhaps he loved the Fae once, but... I know a... Tell...
Remnant không hợp ông chỗ nào thế hôm trước chưa xem á. Rất khó chịu mà thề tôi nhìn mấy game này tôi nhìn mình mà đéo ai chỉ nên là tự phải tìm rất mất công, rất mất thời gian, đúng không ạ? Tiếp theo là hệ thống cốt truyện rời rạc đéo thể chịu được. Cái bản này tôi thấy nó làm nó có một gọi là cái hệ thống dẫn chuyện của nó làm có vẻ đầu tư hơn con Remnant from Ashes, nhưng mà đồng thời nó rất là rời rạc. Mà bạn biết rồi, chơi game thì mà không có chuyện chán lắm. Chí ít mình chơi có Dark Souls, mấy con Dark Souls, mấy con Elden Ring ấy, cổ ngữ nó rất nhiều. Nhiều lúc tôi còn đéo biết tôi đang đọc cái gì. Rồi toàn thi với thai ấy, toàn là từ cổ ấy, rất khó đọc luôn. Nhưng mà chí ít là mình hiểu là ở cái đoạn này mình đang làm gì. Mấy con Souls thì thường là cốt truyện nó không bao giờ nó liền mạch với nhau. Nhưng mà cái mà làm nên sự hấp dẫn của nó ấy, mỗi lần anh em đánh xong con boss, anh em đọc sách, đọc vở, đọc Souls là anh em sẽ biết nó làm gì. Và quan trọng là nó đã không có dẫn chuyện đâu, nó có dẫn chuyện thì nó cuốn vãi lìn. Cutscene của nó epic vãi lìn, các bạn công nhận không ạ? Nó luôn là như vậy. Thế là mà những cái con đấy những cái thứ đấy tôi muốn nó có ở trong mấy game tôi chơi thì nó lại có. Về cơ bản con Remnant thì tôi nghĩ là cái co-op của nó siêu vui. Kể cả phần 1, kể cả phần 2 mới này luôn, nó cực kỳ vui. Nhưng mà đối với tôi là cái thằng mà toàn chơi một mình ấy, thì nói chung là đéo ngủ được không. Game nó lại đau đầu nữa. Đấy. Nó có cái hiệu ứng đéo, nó cứ đeo bám tôi rất khó chịu. Còn gameplay con đấy tôi phải nói là hay nhá. Chứ anh em nghĩ con game mẹ tôi mua gần triệu, bây giờ bảo chơi có 2 ngày bỏ tiếc bỏ mẹ tiền chứ không phải cứt đéo. Tôi không nói là con này nó dở, nó chỉ là nó có nhiều thứ làm tôi khó chịu quá. Đấy, thế thôi. Và khi mà các bạn chơi co-op thì tôi nghĩ là trải nghiệm sẽ khác. Còn khi mà các bạn chơi một mình chán lắm. Đường nó vừa rộng, nó vừa dài, nó vừa loằng ngoằng, nó chơi nó chán. Mà tôi thấy một cái rất buồn cười đó chính là cái chế độ nightmare của đấy, cái nightmare nó cũng như cái bị thịt éo khác thì độ khó nó vẫn nguyên nha các bạn. Độ khó nó vẫn nguyên và quái nó vẫn spawn ngu học như vậy. Đang đánh nhiên có con đằng sau bốp phát mặt mình rất khó chịu. Cái việc co-op với cái việc chơi single ấy, quái nó phân bổ như nhau, nó đéo khác gì cả. Mình chơi một mình thì nó sẽ 3 lần cái môi trường hơn, đúng không? Tôi thấy là hình như mẹ co-op với single chơi na ná nhau hết. Quái nó phân bổ vẫn vậy mà đéo có cái sự cân bằng nào riêng biệt cả. Nó chơi giống nhau hết các bạn. Thế là chắc chắn là khi mà các bạn chơi bảo thì mẹ thế tà mẹ chơi mẹ co-op còn hơn, đúng không? Chơi mẹ gọi mẹ bạn bè vừa vui chứ còn mẹ chơi mình khó ở mẹ khó thật. Tôi không phải cái dạng kiểu mẹ phát xít bảo tôi không chơi thì các bạn đừng chơi. Tôi không phải cái dạng đấy. Đây còn tất cả cái tôi chia sẻ nó là cái ý kiến cá nhân của tôi thôi. Đấy, nó không hợp với tôi chắc chắn là nó sẽ không chắc là nó sẽ không hợp với các bạn. Các bạn vẫn có thể chơi được. Đấy, các bạn thậm chí hình như là có bạn khách co-op các bạn có thể tải về các bạn thử với anh em xong nếu mà hay thật các bạn chơi không thôi.
Two. 20 years more to explore the storyline, and it's not going to be a full deep dive into the story behind every single region, boss, and NPC character. If you do want that kind of thing, then I would suggest checking out QuickTab's channel. He does a great job of explaining different lore around different worlds and NPCs. Finally, please be aware that there will be spoilers for Remnant from the Ashes, its DLC Subject 2923, and of course Remnant 2 as well. All that being said, let's begin. It's the 20th of June 1968, and the world has effectively ended, but some small groups of survivors remain. The world itself has been destroyed by something called the Root. The Root is essentially a race from another world that invaded Earth with the purpose of killing the last surviving members of humankind. But how did this happen? Well, before the invasion, scientists on Earth, along with the military, discovered ancient writings and something that would eventually come to be called the World Stone. The writings themselves were somewhat deciphered, and they spoke of ways to be able to connect humans to the World Stone. Research was extensively carried out inside wards, bunker-type structures that were likely initially built for the coming of a potential war. The connections to other worlds would allow these human subjects, called dreamers, to be able to virtually visit and go to these other worlds, which of course had their own world stones. The scientist overseeing this project was a man called Dr. Ulrich Harsgaard, who was working out of Ward 16. Harsgaard was put in charge as he possessed a strange ability to be able to understand the runic writings. You see, all other worlds except for Earth have what is known as a guardian, and these dreamers would connect to the guardian. One dreamer, a subject called Gabriel, was connected to a guardian which was the size of a planet, and this guardian was worshipped by the inhabitants of that particular world. That was until they turned on the guardian. It was here that the scientists realized that if the guardian is killed while the dreamer is connected, then the dreamer will die as well. After Gabriel's death, the scientists attempted to connect another dreamer to the same world and found it overcome by the Root, who were hunting and killing all of the world's inhabitants. It was then discovered that a world without a guardian makes that world extremely susceptible to Root invasion. Another dreamer, a dreamer known as Subject 2409, ended up connecting to, well, nothing at all. Little did they know that the dreamer had actually been connected directly into the Root itself and to a being called Clawbone. This connection would serve as a way for the Root to invade Earth, and within a couple of years most of humankind was wiped out. This brings us into the game Chronos Before the Ashes. A century after the initial Root invasion, a young adventurer who was armed with a sword and a shield set out to find and put a stop to the Root, to slay the dragon in the tower, and to save humanity. The young adventurer spoke with a tree and was instructed to kill 3 guardians. These guardians were the guardian Cyclops, the guardian of the Pan in Yaesha, the god of many faces, and the guardian of a place called the Labyrinth. Turns out that the dragon, which had been imprisoned by the guardians, had tricked the young adventurer into becoming the new gateway for the Root to remain on Earth. This then leads into Remnant from the Ashes, which takes place a month after the young adventurer failed in their quest. Another adventurer would set out to try and find out what happened to the young adventurer and to slay the dragon themselves. The adventurer, the Wanderer, gets caught in a storm though and their boat crashes. The Wanderer comes across a man fighting off the route outside of Ward 13. The Wanderer tries to help the man, but the man is killed, and the Wanderer is quickly about to be overwhelmed. Some survivors from Ward 13 come to their aid though, and they meet the commander of Ward 13, Ellen Ford. She tells the Wanderer of her grandfather, Andrew the Founder Ford, who had spent years researching and trying to stop the route until his sudden disappearance. The Wanderer then sets out to try and find Founder Ford. Their journey takes them to many different worlds by use of the World Stone. The Wanderer eventually finds Founder Ford in the world of Yesha, where he had been imprisoned. Founder Ford informs the Wanderer of Ward 17, which is inside a tower which itself is the location of 2409, the Dreamer that connected directly to the route. The Wanderer eventually realizes that the Dreamer and the Gateway is now the young adventurer that had set out a month earlier. The Dreamer pulls the Wanderer into their world to fight a root manifestation known as Nightmare. After defeating Nightmare, the tower collapsed, and having escaped, the Wanderer leaves and returns back to Ward 13 again with their quest complete. But it's not over, as the roots still exist on Earth, and this leads us into the Remnant DLC Subject 2923. 1 year later, the Wanderer visited Ward Prime, an old laboratory which is home to 2 realms, the Earthly Realm and another realm where hostile root enemies exist. The Wanderer learns that Harsgard wasn't just head of the Dreamer program, but he became obsessed with sharing a connection with Clawbone. His obsession claimed the lives of more Dreamers, as these Dreamers became unstable and driven to madness, leading to them attacking scientists. The facility was then abandoned. At the centre of Ward Prime, though, was a portal which leads to a world called Rysum, a world of strange creatures and giants. There, the Wanderer meets a young woman named Clementine, who is Subject 2923, and she possesses a unique ability to destroy root infestations. She has formed a strong bond between herself and the Guardian of Rysum, which brought Clementine to their world so she could help them defeat the root attackers. The root, however, attacks Rysum again, and the Guardian passes its power to Clementine. Clementine realizes that Earth is essentially a nexus, so it needs to be saved from the root. Otherwise, the root can use it as a gateway to all other worlds, so she reluctantly returns to Ward Prime with the Wanderer so they can put an end to the root. Shifting to the alternate realm, Clementine creates a new portal which leads to somewhere different. Inside the portal, the Wanderer comes face to face with Harsgard, who has now merged with the root and has taken a grotesque form. The Wanderer defeats Harsgard, which cuts the root's or Clawbone's ties to Earth. Clementine and the Wanderer return to Ward 13 to a warm welcome. But again, more is to be done, and this leads us into Remnant 2. 20 years have passed since the root's connection to Earth was severed. 2 travellers, one the game's protagonist along with their friend Cass, are exploring the barren, destroyed streets in search of a ward. Cass is suffering from what is known as root rot, and it's spreading. It's treatable, but she needs to have it seen to soon. As they move on, they talk about how they hope the people in the ward have items to trade, otherwise the pair will not last long in the wild. Passing through a small warehouse, or what's left of it, they find the damage by the root and its growths still there. There are also root creatures left behind as well, creatures Cass refers to as a deadwood. Eventually they're forced underground where they find a nest, along with more root creatures. The traveller is impaled by a root creature and is gravely injured. They're about to be surrounded, but they are aided by a Ward 13 survivor, Bo, who is the ward's mayor, along with Clementine, who, it appears, had settled in Ward 13. Bo uses a healing item known as a dragon heart to restore the traveller to full health again. They follow their 2 saviors, and after making their way out of the sewers and fighting more root creatures, including a tough root mantis variant, they will make it to a safe area where Cass starts having a coughing fit, clearly struggling with her root rot. Cass is taken to Ward 13 where she can hopefully recover. It appears that since the Wanderer helped banish and sever the root from Earth 20 years prior, it's safe enough now for the survivors of Ward 13 to live outside again. In the meantime, while Cass recovers, the protagonist speaks with and meets people from the ward. On the way to meet Founder Ford, the traveller overhears a heated conversation between Founder Ford and Clementine. The 2 clearly don't get on. At all. Speaking with Ford, whom the traveller figures is now over 100 years old, it's revealed that his daughter, Commander Ellen Ford, has passed away. Also, Ford needs the traveller's help and tells him to meet him by the gate to Ward 13. In truth, Andrew Ford is immortal. He gained this immortality through the use of the World Stone. After getting tooled up, the traveller meets Ford at the gate and they enter the Ward 13. The place is exactly as it was left. Then they see the World Stone again. It's dormant, it's been shut down after the death of Dr. Harsgard, but Ford uses the nearby terminal in a strange cube, and it comes glowing back to life. Ford reminisces about the journeys that the World Stone gave him and tells the traveller to tell Bo to seal the door and to bury the place in a tomb of concrete. Ford then touches the World Stone and gets pulled into some other world. Clementine shows up, and after the system announces that the core has been compromised, Clementine is pulled into the stone by something. The traveller tries to prevent it from happening, but to no avail. The traveller then attempts to go after her, being pulled into the stone themselves. Okay, so what happens next is completely randomised, as the traveller can be pulled into one of 3 different worlds, but I'll start with the world that I visited first, Yaesha. You might recognise the name. Yaesha is the only world to have appeared in every single Remnant game, even Kronos before the Ashes. It is home to a race of goat-like bipeds called the Pan. A lot of the lore for Yaesha was established in the previous game, but Yaesha was once a lush, vibrant green landscape with beautiful trees and lots of plant life. It was home to at least 2 demigods by the name of Mirdri and her sister Kaula. The Pan societal hierarchy consists of Pan nobility, including the priests named the Lemir, who bury the dead, and Pan commoners who tended to live among the treetops. The young adventurer went there 20 years earlier and defeated the guardian of the Pan Guardian, opening the world up to invasion by the Root. Now, when the traveller arrives, the situation regarding the Root is a lot worse. Over the years, the Root had slowly taken over. Even the demigods were not safe, as the demigod Kaula was taken by the Root and corrupted. Again, the RNG plays a part here, as the traveller is taken through one of 2 possible scenarios. When the traveller arrives in Yaesha, they arrive at a site called the Red Throne. The Red Throne is essentially the seat of power of the Pan civilization, and it is sat upon by the Eternal Empress. Reaching the throne room, the traveller speaks with the Empress's assistant. The Pan are themselves mostly intolerant of anyone not of their race, and they harbour ill will towards any outsiders. They refer to the traveller as Paxeltech, which is a term for someone not of the Pan, and they claim to know what the traveller's goal is. The Empress's assistant speaks of the Empress's immortality, and speaks of bringing something sacred to the Pan called the Nunya Tav back to the Eternal Court after they were cast into the abyss by the Root, so that the deserved can obtain immortality. The assistant mentions an abomination, a corrupted guardian which bedevils the Empress. They want the traveller to kill the abomination, and then they will help them with their goal. It turns out that after the young adventurer killed the Pan Guardian all those years ago, its rotting remains were overtaken by the Root. It's making a mockery of divinity, so that's the driving force behind them wanting it killed. By doing so, they claim that it will bring peace and greatness back to Yaesha again. Now, a little bit more is revealed if the traveller decides to decline the Empress's request to kill the abomination for her. The traveller fights the 4 Pan warriors protecting the Empress, and if they lose, they'll get thrown into a prison where they'll be held captive. At this point, the Empress will reveal that she is not the Empress at all. The assistant is the real Empress. The Empress's immortality is fading away due to the root corruption of the Pan's sacred and mythical Thane tree. She is therefore hiding her identity. Anyway, should the traveller agree to the Empress's request, the traveller will leave the throne room and will eventually come across a Pan musician, the flautist. He stops playing and tells the wanderer about the god of many faces, and mentions its demise at the hands of the other Paxeltech, who of course was the young adventurer. He then sends the traveller in the right direction in order to kill it. The traveller, after fighting their way through an area called the Widow's Court, reaches the mythical Thine tree, indeed heavily corrupted by the Root. The deceased Pan Guardian is there, heavily corrupted and influenced by the Root, by way of an entity called Corruptor. The Corruptor is effectively controlling the possessed Pan Guardian. Despite its aggressive nature, the traveller defeats the Corruptor and obtains something called a segment, something that all powerful beasts hold. In the alternate storyline, when the traveller arrives in Yaesha, they immediately come into contact with a Pan called Bedel of the Vaunt. This particular Pan leader is horrifically afflicted with root rot and is covered in fungal growths. According to Bedel of the Vaunt, he was attacked a while ago, and it started out as a small wound, but then whatever afflicted him just grew. He thinks that the root, which Bedel calls the pestilence, is keeping him alive, but he doesn't know for what exactly. So the Vaunts had a duty to something known as the balance. It's revealed that Yaesha is a world that really needs balance, and a big part of that balance is due to something called the Wolf and the Red Doe. The wolf, a spiritual being, is referred to as the Ravager, who Bedell refers to as the plague of the pan and the defiler of the doe. You see, the doe kept the wolf, the Ravager, in check, but has not been seen for a long time. That balance was completely destroyed when the root invaded Yaesha. The root creatures now outnumber the pan themselves, which, my guess, fits with the goals of the root, to eradicate all life forms. The Ravager was overcome by the root and, according to Bedell, has pledged fealty to the root. The reason for this was that after the Wanderer defeated the Ravager in combat 20 years prior, after being left for dead, the Ravager swore allegiance to the root in exchange for saving its life. You can guess what's coming. Yep, the Traveller needs to kill the Ravager. So the Traveller makes their way to the Lost Temple deep into the jungle of Yaesha. They come across a water harp, constructed by pan-luthiers, who are makers of musical instruments. The harp was built in order to soothe the creature, which was killing a lot of the pan populace. After playing the song, the bridge extended. Inside the temple, the Traveller finds the Ravager's lair.
The last of your kind left me for dead. That is when they found me and offered me their enlightenment. Blind was I until they opened my eye to the lies of permanence. Oh, the feeble empress craves her fruit, tries to guzzle immortality. But all things die come, even gods. Theirs is a mastery of death, the all that is nothing. And so I offer the choice they offered, come. Return to the ash from which we all came, or break the yoke of balance and become eternal. But the bridge between ego and soul cannot be crossed without paying a toll. Here bleeds the lie. Here mules the old order. Kill it. Kill the doll, and we shall seal our pact.
The Traveller has a choice here, to kill the doe as requested, or to heal it, causing it to run off. During the first storyline, if the Traveller was imprisoned by the Empress's assistant reveals that after the Pan Guardian's spirit is freed from the Corruptor, the Pan belief is that that spirit will use the red doe as the vessel. But anyway, there are two other variants here, but they don't matter too much, they just affect what reward you receive after the fight. Returning to the World Stone again, the Traveller is transported to yet another world. The Labyrinth is essentially an ever-changing bridge between different worlds. Founder Ford himself would use the Labyrinth to travel between worlds in his attempt to explore. No one really lives there, but nonetheless, it did once have a Guardian. Of course, this Guardian was taken down and defeated by the young adventurer. Although the Guardian was defeated, there were still remnants of said Guardian which defended the Labyrinth against the Root. Their efforts were in vain though, as after the death of the Guardian, the Root used the Labyrinth as a way to travel to and to invade other worlds. This led to an entity known as the Keeper returning to the Labyrinth. I say returning as the Keeper is actually the one responsible for the Labyrinth. The Keeper's return did come too late, as aberrations had started to occur in the Labyrinth, causing it to crumble. The Traveller, after travelling through the crumbling Labyrinth, meets the Keeper, who seems to be a very large eye entity. Clementine is there too. The Keeper sees the Traveller as a hostile threat and attempts to attack, but Clementine stops it. It's clear that the Keeper was the one that pulled Clementine into the World Stone. The Traveller pulls out the segment that they acquired from the previous world, and the Keeper takes an interest in it. The Keeper refers to the segment as a fail-safe. You see, the Labyrinth exists, but what also exists above that is a core. The core is in danger of being corrupted by the Root. The segment itself is part of something called the Index, which can purge the Root corruption. The Keeper needs the Traveller to acquire more segments by killing more powerful beings. And 2 of them, in fact. The Keeper then refers to Clementine as the Utility. The Keeper gives the Traveller a biome, a special key which will open doors or portals to other worlds. Upon further conversation, the Keeper explains that Clementine bears the nature of both the core and of Guardians. Speaking to Clementine, she basically says, "Thanks for coming to save me, but I'm staying." So the traveller leaves through one of the two portals. Alright, so Nerude is essentially a massive construct, a ship the size of a planet which is capable of interdimensional travel. This ship was home to a race called the Drasier, a race which had survived for an entire millennia. The Drasier were themselves made up of different classes, if you like: Seekers, Astropaths, the Zul, the Fetir and the Ophildi, with the latter being basically the bottom rung of society, yet very crucial to the efficient operation of the Drasier's goals. As a race, they were extremely technologically advanced, and they had used this technology and biology itself in order to achieve their goals and to learn a vast amount about time and space. But, and there's always a but, they could not, even after 20,000 years of searching, no matter how hard they tried, find any trace of life in the universe other than their own. Then the Drasier discovered something called the Seat of Creation, which was basically the center of the universe, and inside it a supermassive black hole which was named Ellipsis Tora. Given that the Drasier were hell-bent on fixated on finding the meaning for life and creation in general, they theorized that all the answers to their questions lay within the black hole of Ellipsis Tora. But there was, let's say, a split in opinion.
A foul smell shimmers on the horizon of time. The ambit ember will show me more, but it will take time. Thankfully, those who would face Ellipsis Tora are a minority. The Drasier have always trusted the intuition of the astropaths. That is why we exist. The Drasier will not alter course now.
A being called the Custodian, essentially a super advanced AI, believed that Nerude could survive the journey into the black hole, whereas another Drasier, being Talratha, known as an astropath, basically the person or entity guarding the Drasier, whilst excited about what they'd discovered, tried to warn the Drasier against this plan, saying that Nerude would not be able to survive its journey. But the Custodian's plan was the chosen approach. The Drasier had faith in their technology, and this technology was used to manufacture stasis pods for the Drasier. These pods were supposed to protect them from the effects of the black hole. I say supposed because it didn't go well. Talratha, the Custodian, and a tiny number of Drasier were pretty much the only survivors, and the rest of the Drasier they are transformed into zombie-like entities who are doomed to amble around the derelict construct they once called home. Essentially, time passes a little differently inside the black hole itself. Nerude was in the black hole for 100 years, except when the Druzir exited the black hole, billions of years had actually passed outside of it. When the Druzir entered the black hole, the rest of the universe died a heat death. There's more to it, but we'll cover the smaller details as we go along. But let's dive into the storylines, as again, there are 2 randomly generated storylines on the Rood. The Traveller enters into an area on the Rood called Seeker's Rest. There they find an item called a Seeker's Key. Its purpose is not yet clear, but the Traveller thinks that it seems important. A little further into Seeker's Rest, the Traveller encounters a huge mechanical floating eye. The aforementioned custodian, the AI, speaks to the Traveller and tells him to head outside and to look for his tower, a tower with a glowing white light at the top. Heading outside, the whole planet and ship is a barren wasteland. A strange fog-like mist covers large parts of the planet ship, which when walked into by the Traveller causes them to vomit. Nonetheless, the Traveller spots the tower in the distance and heads across the wasteland, avoiding various battle drones. Despite stiff opposition, the Traveller reaches the tower and speaks with the custodian, or rather the custodian's avatar. The custodian basically explains what happened in regard to Nerude, why everyone is pretty much dead, and about Alepsis Tora. Of course, the custodian is super excited to meet another life form. Anyway, the custodian needs the Traveller's help. Naturally, he wants to save Nerude and the Druzir, and to do that he needs full control of the functions of the ship. It appears that the custodian wants to have another crack at Alepsis Tora, so to speak. He wants to reattempt entry back into the black hole. Despite this being a terrible idea, 3 keys are needed. Seeker's keys, which open up a large door which is a path to the core of the ship. Control of the core was taken away from the custodian by the Seekers, and they hid away their keys. Of course, you'll remember that the Traveller has already picked one of the keys up, so more are required. The Traveller goes either to a place called the Hatchery or to the place called the Putrid Domain and fights one of 2 bosses and gets the key. It's here that the Traveller sees the factory which was manufacturing the stasis pods, and also with it the evidence of the failure of the pods which effectively killed the Druzir inside them. The last key is in a place called Astropath's Respite, and again after more fighting the final key is obtained. It's time to go to the Sentinel's Keep. Inside is an entity known as Shahala, the spectral guardian of Nerude. The Traveller does battle with the Phantom and defeats it. The powerful being drops an index segment, and after a conversation where the custodian thanks the Traveller for their help, the Traveller leaves Nerude. In this storyline, instead of arriving on the Rood at the Seeker's Rest, the Traveller arrives via the Forgotten Prison. Instead of speaking to the custodian, the Traveller will speak to a mysterious entity who doesn't show themselves. They ask the Traveller to help the Druzir by obtaining something called soul sparks, which are contained within a cylinder. The Traveller goes to a place called the Eon Vault and grabs the soul spark cylinder. Inside the cylinder are eggs. Moving and twitching, these eggs prove that some of the Druzir survived and have a chance at life. Meeting with the custodian, the AI entity asks the Traveller to defeat the aforementioned Tal Ratha. The custodian believes that Tal Ratha has within him a shining essence echo, which the custodian needs in order to save the Druzir. Since the custodian believes that Tal Ratha won't part with the echo willingly, force must be enacted in order to take it from him. Upon returning to the Forgotten Prison, it's revealed that the voice that was speaking to the Traveller earlier on belonged to Tal Ratha himself.
The soul sparks, give them to me. Lifetimes have I waited. Now I can rest knowing that everything left of my people is preserved for eternity. I have created an ark to preserve what is left of the Druzir. Though all of Nerude will cease, my ark will endure, and these sparks will join the consciousness of the countless others within. Our fate is inevitable. The custodian will return Nerude to Alepsis Tora. It will not emerge a second time.
So Tal Ratha wants to use himself as sort of an ark to preserve the Druzir. He also mentions that he once consumed a substance called ambit ember, and this gave him the foresight to see the dangers of entering Alepsis Tora, hence why he tried to save the Druzir. Tal Ratha offers the Traveller immortality by letting Tal Ratha eat them. Yeah, really. Even if the Traveller says yes, a fight will ensue, and the traveller will fight Talratha, either in his spectral form or his physical one. Killing the Phantom will grant the traveller a dropped index segment, as well as his shining essence echo which the Custodian wanted. Now, in both storylines, if the traveller decides to go back and give the Custodian what he wants, then he will drive Nerude straight into the black hole. His reason is, of course, that after they went into Ellipsis Tora the first time, the time dilation effect meant that the universe had basically ended. There was nothing left. So, there was nothing left for them to do but enter into the black hole again. It's not known what exactly happened to them, but later on, Nerude is no longer visitable, and there's no sign of the Drazir in Ellipsis Tora either. Just nothingness. In search of the last remaining segment, the traveller heads through the final portal in the labyrinth, and this leads them to a world called La Somme. So, La Somme is actually the result of two worlds merging together, but this isn't a union that created order and peace. It in fact did the opposite, creating chaos. Let me explain. Before the merging of the two worlds, there was the world of the Fae and the world of the Dran. But for now, let's look at the Fae. The world of the Fae was ruled by the one true king. Not only was he the king, he was the guardian of the Fae. He came about way before the creation of the Fae themselves. Although they didn't show their faces much, the majority of the Fae seemed to be more reminiscent of orcs, goblins, and fairies. They sported really sharp teeth. They likely hate the way they look, hence why pretty much all of the mirrors in the palace are shattered, and why the Fae adorn themselves in beautiful armour. The one true king would write in his diary that the Fae themselves are not fit to rule. The reason was that they, by their very nature, are volatile beings, built to destroy. He even states that it's his duty to protect the world from the Fae. The powerful winds levelled rocks and trees, lightning turned fields to ash. After the storm, out of the ash the Fae were born, but their nature was there to see right from the start. They hunted, not out of need, but for sport, and they loved the chase. The king would nurture them and try to teach them to stand, to speak, and to dream. But it didn't really work. The king introduced the Fae to discipline and reward, so the king ruled with an iron fist and would have the Fae live by a strict set of rules, when in reality, the Fae preferred a more chaotic lifestyle. There was prosperity in the kingdom of the Fae, but only for some, the ones who offered praise and fealty to the king. So a plot was hatched to get rid of the one true king. An imposter essentially tricked the Fae Council into thinking that the one true king needed to go in order for the Fae to be free. But the council had a rogue member who had their own ambitions of leading the Fae. The Fae itself did have two goddesses, if you will, an entity called Numue, who is a seer and was the counselor to the one true king, and the other, the Night Weaver, who was the goddess of sleep. Of course, the king knew that the people around him were plotting. Even his scribe Leywise would murder and plot, thinking that the king was none the wiser. And the king decided to keep those he trusted the least nearest to him. The truth is that Numue, the king's counsel, was involved too. She actually crafted the knife that was used to depose the one true king, but as she claims, she was deceived by the imposter king. The reason for crafting such a knife was due to the fact that, due to the laws of magic, mortal weapons could not harm the king. So they deposed the king but didn't kill him, as he was instead put into a deep sleep that he could not awaken from by the use of the knife, and the assassins was one of the members of the Fae Council. The world of the Dran, however, was an elven world. The Dran were at one point like humans. The imposter king then took the throne, and this led to a forced merging of these two worlds. The Dran entered into a hive mind-like state and were easily provoked into a frenzied state. Some of the Dran population were not affected by the merging of the two worlds, but these awoken Dran, as they were called, were seen as troublemakers by the rest of the Dran society and were punished for being outspoken against the chaos and confusion that the merger had caused. Lots of Dran would lose their lives, leading to their children being orphaned and ending up at the orphanage, a refuge run by the Oracle of the Dran. There was also a Dran hunter, aptly named the Huntress, who would turn against her own and hunt the Dran for the Fae. Dran would be taken to the Fae Palace and would be sacrificed. The Fae would sap the life force of the Dran. They literally consumed it. But without the one true king there to rule, the Fae were directionless. The Fae roam the halls of the castle, and its banquet halls are filled with rotting food. But as we did before, let's jump into the first of the two storylines. The traveller steps through the portal and arrives at the Beatific Palace. The first thing of note here is a massive ornate door, which requires two reliefs in order to open it, and it seems that there are two reliefs of the same king. Strange. It's not long after a journey through the beautiful hallways that the traveller finds the first piece of the mural, a golden mask bearing the face of the imposter king, Phelan. After fighting through more of the extremely hostile Fae in the basement, the traveller meets a jester who, after showing off their skull juggling skills, produces a magic quill for the traveller. This allows the traveller to fill in the pieces of missing portals and move through gateways into other areas. A little while later, the traveller can come across the banquet hall. There is rotting food everywhere, and a very large person sits at the long table. They state that they are celebrating the coronation of the new king. He mentions what the food is: the flesh of an exotic and recently discovered creature. He is of course referring to the Dran. But the man states two names: Phelan, who we've already obtained the mask for, and another name, Feyrin. When questioned in regard to this possible mistake, the large man brushes it off. If the traveller decides to partake in the feast, the food turns out to be irresistible. The traveller also meets and speaks to Numwe, who tells the traveller that the imposter king needs to be dealt with, and expresses her regret in what transpired in the deposition of the one true king. Later on, after fighting the dangerous Magister Dulain, the traveller goes through a portal and enters into the Malefic Palace. It's the same palace, but darker. Anyway, the traveller finds the Jester again. This time, the Jester opens up 5 portals, and stepping through the correct one will take the traveller to the second mask piece, Feyrin. Returning to the ornate door, the traveller places the 2 masks into their respective slots and the large door opens. A lever takes the traveller between both versions of the palace. They speak to the imposter king. It turns out that there are 2 kings. Sort of. The merging of the 2 worlds also caused a split with the imposter king, creating 2 individuals out of 1. The traveller speaks with Phelan. They mention that they are looking for powerful beings. Phelan claims that there's an imposter that plagues him. He is speaking about Feyrin, his other half, so to speak. Phelan, who claims he's the true ruler of the Fae, he's assuming the traveller doesn't know about the one true king being deposed. He wants Feyrin dead and offers to compensate the traveller for the deed. Naturally, there's 2 sides to every story, so the traveller also goes and speaks to Feyrin. Feyrin is pretty rude, but he offers the same thing: compensation for taking out Phelan, as he also claims to be the true king. Both of them are powerful beings, so the traveller can of course choose which one to kill. In my playthrough, I chose to take down Feyrin because, well, he was just rude. Even after taking the imposter down, looking into the floor reveals the other half of Feyrin is still alive. I'm not sure what this means in the grand scheme of things and the future of the Fae realm, but the traveller has another segment, and that brings this storyline to a close. So, who was the imposter? I mean, I theorise that it could have been the king's scribe, Leywise, a man the king describes as his closest confidant, who the king knew wanted to destroy him and take his place. The traveller can also step through the labyrinth portal and end up in the Morrow Parish district of Losom, which is home to a nearby asylum, but the gate is chained shut. Trying to find a way around, the traveller finds the streets are filled with Dran, who are extremely hostile, but of course, they have been influenced into their frenzy-like rage. After a perilous journey through the sewers of Losom, home to vicious aberrations such as Barghest the Vile and the Bloat King, the traveller makes it to the backyard of the asylum. The asylum itself is home to Dran of a particular madness. After the merging of the Dran and Fae worlds, it was this that sent the majority of the Dran crazy. On a side note, there was a local man by the name of Hudus who was in charge of the clock tower, but the clock had special powers. One night when the Dran were being attacked by some bandits, Hudus left the clock tower to help build defences, but the clock just stopped, and time stopped with it. Literally. The villagers in Losom had all the time they needed in order to build their defences. Whoever wrote this letter spoke of beasts or demons attacking the villagers, and they think that the clock is what drew them. So the cog was removed from the clock, and again, time stood still. The cog was then hidden somewhere. Anyway, back to the asylum. The traveller finds out that the asylum staff were experimenting on their Dran subjects. There's a reason that they think these Dran are crazy though. In the notes we just looked at, it spoke of the villagers' militia not being able to see the Fae, which obviously led the villagers that could see the Fae being thrown into the asylum being considered mad.
Creatures. You see them everywhere. Not much bigger than a Dren, but full of wings and teeth. They feed on us, stranger. The others? They see him too. Yeah, they'll fight them off, maybe avoid them while a Dran dies at their feet, but then they do nothing. Move on like nothing happened at all. There are others. I knew one, but I ain't seen her in weeks. After what happened today, I expect I know what happens to any of us who talk about what we see. What we know.
Patients on the asylum's ward speak of the Night Weaver. A conversation with one particular patient reveals something interesting. One particular patient, Orville, would go up to the top floor and draw pictures, and one day, Orville managed to escape the asylum. On the top floor of the asylum, the traveller can indeed see Orville's drawings. He was trying to draw portals, but eventually he managed to draw one and used it to escape. In the basement of the asylum, which contains padded cells, the traveller speaks with the head doctor, Dr. Morrow, who has been locked up and is crying. She too mentions the Nightweaver, goddess Nomwe's sister, goddess of sleep. Well, the Nightweaver, corrupted by the merging of the two worlds, has been causing havoc and has been terrorising the Dran, feeding upon nightmares and fear, as well as the life force of the Dran. Morrow says that she was locked up by the staff after she spoke about seeing the Nightweaver, and that the Nightweaver has been terrorising her while she sleeps. She's been trying to finish a sculpture of the Nightweaver, but none of the ones she did were accurate. Morrow has left carved dolls around the asylum. The traveller collects 3 of them and gives them to her. Her hope was that seeing them might spark her memory of what the Nightweaver looked like. The traveller enters the doctor's cell, but there was no one inside. She'd been busy though, sculpting the dolls, trying to remember what the Nightweaver looked like. She did it. She did manage to sculpt one accurate to the appearance of the corrupted sleep goddess. The traveller goes through a portal into the Fey Palace and speaks with Nomwe, who tells the traveller that he's being hunted by the Nightweaver. The Nightweaver was corrupted when the two worlds merged together. In order to hunt her first, the traveller must collect the heart of one of her most recent victims in order to travel to her realm in order to kill her. Turns out that the Nightweaver is actually Nomwe's sister, once beautiful but now horribly distorted due to the evil that now consumes her. Nomwe then sends the traveller to the Nightweaver's hunting grounds, basically the Dran village, in order to retrieve the heart. This place is chaotic. The situation here, along with most other areas of the village, is pretty bleak, as it appears the Dran have been slaughtered in large number by the Fey, and the buildings have been set alight. The streets take the traveller to the Fey Palace again, and they face off against the ever-intimidating Magister Delane. The traveller interrupts the Nightweaver with one of her victims, and she disappears. This victim was the aforementioned Orville, who ended up in the Fey Palace. The traveller manages to get Orville's heart and travels back to the asylum. There is a strange web, and the traveller places the heart onto it. They are then transported to the Nightweaver's realm. The traveller soon meets the Nightweaver, and after a tough battle, the Nightweaver is taken down and she drops the final segment needed for the index. Time to head back to the labyrinth. Travelling back to the labyrinth's inner sanctum, the traveller speaks with the Keeper, who has now revealed his true form. He again reiterates that despite his efforts, the root festered and grew beyond his sight, and has corrupted the core of the labyrinth after the Guardian was slain by the young adventurer. Turns out that the Keeper purged the labyrinth, expunging realm after realm in the hope that it would restrain the rot, but he was too late. Only now, he says, a new solution has been revealed. The Keeper merges the 3 segments together to make the index. The Keeper then goes on to state that with the index, 2 probabilities emerge. First, that the root wins, and the second, well, he doesn't actually mention the second. You see, the root is everywhere, but the Keeper states that it originates from a single source, a single realm. Only when the root spread, the door to that particular realm was closed, even to someone as powerful as the Keeper. But with the newly formed index, the Keeper can subvert their defenses, making it possible to purge the corruption, meaning that they can kill the root over time. A conversation with Clementine reveals that she is connected to the Keeper, and they now have a bond. The traveller steps into what seems to be an alternate version of Earth, a parallel universe, if you will. It's very corrupted by the root and is teeming with root monsters and creatures. Despite this, the traveller battles their way through them all and eventually reaches the source at a place called the Blackened Citadel. Some kind of force field is stopping the traveller from progressing, but Clementine shows up with the Keeper. She says that the traveller needs to win, or it's the end of everything. Clementine then uses her powers to break the force field, which significantly weakens her. The traveller then comes face to face with the source, an entity called Annihilation. The fight switches between a physical world there on Root Earth and a bizarre, digital world. Not only that, but it seems that Annihilation was actually being controlled by what could have been a dreamer. Despite the strength of the ferocious entity, the traveller comes out victorious. The entity is not quite dead, but it seems the Keeper is unsure about something. He thinks their efforts are all futile. Again, he mentions the first probability, that the root wins or consumes all, but stops short of the second probability again. We're about to find out why. The Keeper mentions that the corruption is inviolate. This basically means that the root cannot be harmed. The containment isn't really an option. It's time for that second probability, Annihilation. Essentially, to eradicate the corruption, the system needs to be restored. to wipe everything and to start over again. The root is just too powerful and will destroy everything. The Keeper is reluctant to carry it out, but Clementine comes up with another option. She grabs a segment from the Keeper and runs toward the root entity. She emits a powerful beam of light from her body, powered by the index segment. Annihilation makes one last stand to try and preserve itself, but to no avail. The effects of what just happened are felt throughout all realms. In War 13, people are disappearing, but not just in War 13, everywhere. The Somme, Yesha, and the Rood. All of these people from all realms are being transferred into Clementine. Not just the lives and memories, but the realms too. And then the Traveller as well. It's making a sort of backup of everything. All that remains in the black void is the index. The Keeper approaches but walks away, and then the index fires up, and all the data inside of it comes out. Slowly, piece by piece, the realms, the people in it, are restored as they once were before the root took hold, including the crumbling labyrinth. The Traveller wakes up in the field and the game then ends. Alright, so pretty mental ending, but the index is basically a data drive, and the root is a virus. When the Keeper was insinuating that the system needed to be restored, he meant literally that, rebooting the universe and all of existence from scratch, not even knowing whether Earth would even exist in this new reality. What happened instead was that Clementine effectively became a hard drive for all the living souls, and that and herself was stored on the index. Then the index spat it out back onto a freshly installed version of the universe, if you will. Essentially what she was doing was backing up all of the data she wanted to keep, erasing the root corruption, making a fresh copy of the universe, unfortunately still with the damage caused by the root, and reinstalled all of that data onto the new universe, effectively restoring everything. Think of it as restoring your computer to the way it was at a previous time and date. Clementine, by doing this, has locked the universe into a sort of time loop, which explains the Traveller's ability to, from a lore standpoint at least, re-roll campaigns in the different worlds. This is also something hinted at by the Oracle of the Dran. She's stitching a quilt which features patches corresponding to the Traveller having dealt with something in Lossam, such as fighting the Nightweaver and helping various people and solving mysteries. She mentions run-throughs, and all the patches can't be done on a single run-through, and she sees everything, and this alludes to re-rolling different campaigns again. I guess this somewhat makes sense as to why Root Earth was so corrupted. That was essentially the real Earth, the original core world of the AI simulation they now live in. The Earth free from the Root was actually a digital copy. Conversations with Mudtooth lead to him telling a story where he actually met the Keeper. He was in the labyrinth at one point. The remnant world itself appears to be some sort of transdimensional multiverse. A patient in the Morrow Asylum talks about everything shifting around them and a change. The core of the labyrinth is literally that, the core universe with extensions of it which make up the worlds and other realms. Some theories speculate that the labyrinth itself could have been built by some super advanced alien race. The Keeper himself could have been one of those aliens, and when the Root invaded Earth, the Keeper made a backup of Earth, if you like. He did this in order to quarantine the Root on Root Earth, the real Earth, and then transferred everyone and everything to the new Earth, if that makes sense. It is confusing. I'm not sure if I was a fan of the ending, if I'm completely honest, that everything was potentially just a simulation. One thing we know from playing the game is that a few people are actually immortal. Founder Ford was immortal.
Sitting atop his chiseled throne at the peak of his ornate castle waits the King of the Fae. Betrayed by his council, scorned by his son, and corrupted by the Root, his madness knows no end. But amidst the chaos lies opportunity. My name is Kodiak, this is Legacy Gaming, and today we're revealing the secrets of the One True King. In typical Gunfire Games fashion, almost everywhere you look in the new Awakened King DLC, you'll find traces of secrets to uncover. New characters you meet, like Leywise the Scribe, are intimately tied to a number of rewards, but even familiar faces like the Red Prince and the Feastmaster have mysteries to unravel within the DLC. We'll touch on all of them, but in my mind, there's only one place we can start as we begin. Faces like the Red Prince and the Feastmaster have mysteries to unravel within the DLC. We'll touch on all of them, but in my mind, there's only one place we can start as we begin to peel back the layers of secrets surrounding the new content, the One True King. Before we dive headfirst into all of the secrets the DLC has to offer, it should be no surprise, this video is chock full of spoilers. If you're still trying to work your way through the DLC and you want to experience it for yourself, we'd highly advise saving this video for a later watch. Now, the truth is, there's a lot of misinformation out there about how many rewards are truly tied to the antagonist of the Awakened King content, but we are here to set that record straight. There are multiple ways to kill the One True King, and depending on how you kill him, when you talk to Nimue, and what arrangements you make with both parties, the loot you receive at the end of your adventure will vary. Before we step foot into the One True King's chambers, we need to stop by the hallowed halls where the now dead Fae Council reside. There you'll see a rather grotesque scene of death and impalement, but within their suffering comes some loot. Shoot the bodies of each of the council members, and one of them will drop an amulet, the Cost of Betrayal. This reduces the max relic charge to 1 and increases all damage by 20% when the wearer, you in this case, has 1 relic charge. It also increases incoming damage by 20% when the wearer has no relic charges, and after 30 seconds, players regain 1 relic charge. Once we're done with the council, it's on to the king. So to start, let's keep it simple. In order to receive the Tormentor's Pommel, which is a crafting material used to create the melee weapon Wrathbringer, players need to defeat the One True King when he is not empowered. To do this, you simply need to kill all or close to all of the Dran during the intermission phase. If you mess up, it's no big deal, as the empowerment does wear off. Now, to identify if the boss is empowered, look for the flames on his chest. If you're not paying attention to the mechanics of the fight, it's very easy to accidentally empower the boss, but the empowerment does fall off, which is why there's a lot of confusion around the source of this kill. It has nothing to do with breaking his hammer, killing him while he's kneeling, or anything of the sort. You just need to kill him when he's in his standard form. Your reward, Wrathbringer, is a big, beefy mace that we cover in our 5 insane DLC weapons video, so go check that out. On the flip side, killing the king while he's empowered will reward you with the Agony Spike crafting material, which you can turn into the interesting long gun, Monarch. Again, we talk about this at length in our DLC weapons video. To activate the alternate kill on the One True King, you need to wait for him to enter that intermission phase. He'll levitate into the air and begin to glow, triggering the start of the phase. At this time, a bunch of Dran ads will spawn, and you don't want to kill them. Run around avoiding the enemies and energy blasts alike until the phase is over. The One True King will send out a huge shockwave which you need to avoid, killing the Dran and absorbing their power. You'll notice up to 3 flames will ignite on the boss's chest. If you see a flame, that means the boss is empowered, and you can kill him. This is really all about timing. We found that bringing the boss close to or around 1 health bar was what we needed to do before hitting that intermission phase. You have all the time in the world to get him set up, so don't rush. Once his intermission phase is over and he's empowered, he'll regain some health. But if you save your cooldowns and blast him as soon as he soaks up the Dran energy, you should be able to kill him before his empowerment wears off. The key is to land that killing blow while one of the flames is active on his chest. That will net you with the alternate reward, the Agony Spike. When first approaching the One True King, he'll go into some detail about his betrayal, how he captured the goddess Nimue, and will present you with a choice. Kill the betrayer Nimue, or be killed yourself. If you refuse and choose to kill the One True King without ever talking to Nimue, you'll also be able to receive the Jewel of the Beholden Ring. Once you defeat the boss, return to Nimue and share the news that his corruption has been purged from the world, and she'll reward you with the item. When equipped, this ring increases your mod damage by 15% for 10 seconds every time you use a relic. If you decide to seek out Nimue before engaging in the One True King boss fight, you'll have a choice to make. You can either kill her or double-cross the king and spare Nimue's life. If you agree to spare her life, she'll give you the quest item Nimue's Vow. When you fight the One True King, this item will automatically take the final few percentage points of his life, transforming into Nimue's Blood-Marred Vow. Take this item back to the Goddess of the Fae and you'll receive Gift of the Unbound. This amulet disables all negative effects of burden rings and restricts maximum health gained by 20% per effect disabled. It's a really fascinating amulet that can be woven into some pretty interesting builds, but it really depends on how many burden rings you're looking to exploit. If you choose to follow through with your loyalty pledge to the king, you can kill Nimue, receiving an item immediately after slaying the goddess. Once the deed is done, you'll receive the relic Broken Heart, which has a 50% innate use speed bonus. On use, it sets your current health to 50% of your max health over 0.25 seconds. However, the joke's on you, as your act of loyalty will still provoke a fight with the One True King. There's actually one more quirky secret tied to the boss fight. While fighting the One True King, if you're wearing the Burden of the Divine Ring, which you most likely found during your travels in either the Great Sewer or Tiller's Rest, you'll receive another ring, Burden of the Departed. This reduces your total relic charges by 33%, but increases all damage dealt by 10%. To be clear, Burden of the Divine is not a new item. It has been in the game since day one, so head back to the Great Sewer or Tiller's Rest if you don't have it in your inventory. Now, the final secret tied to the One True King has to do with his son, the Red Prince. The long and short of it is this. Once you kill the final boss, you'll need to head to the Gilded Chambers map, pay the tribute to the Red Prince, and then return back to the throne room to claim your spot as his champion. There is so much more nuance to it than that, but you better believe we've got a full video breaking that down, so go check it out if you don't have the Crimson Guard armor already. With 8 secrets out of the way, we're not even close to done peeling back the layers of this DLC, so let's forge ahead. We'll head back to the beginning of the Forlorn Coast map, into the sewers, and talk to the king's former scribe, Leywise. This Fae is currently lying low as to not draw the ire of the One True King, but beneath his humble facade is actually a character tied to a good number of secrets. Throughout your travels across the Forlorn Coast, keep your eyes peeled for a strange book on the ground. This misplaced memoir is your key to unlocking a number of items from the scribe. This is one of those secrets that will require multiple playthroughs to fully capitalize on, so hear me out. If you return the book to Leywise without opening it, he'll be so thankful he'll reward you with the Index of the Scribe amulet. This is an excellent item that increases mod and skill weak point damage by 35%, perfect for those players that are rocking highly precise damage builds. If you inspect the misplaced memoir, you'll notice an interaction with the latch. Opening up the book will reveal the book-bound medallion. If you bring the item to Leywise and give it back to him the first time he asks you, you'll be rewarded with the Burden of the Sciolist, which reduces ammo reserves by 25%, but increases mod and skill damage by 15%. If you decline the first offer to return the medallion, but take Leywise up on the second offer, you'll be rewarded with the Ring of Infinite Damage, which sadly doesn't live up to the name. This ring simply increases your fire rate by 8%. Finally, if you decide to open the memoir and keep the amulet, you can use it to unlock a secret room in the Chamber of the Faithless map. Once you reach the World Stone, head to the right and through the chamber until you reach a locked door. Interact with it using the medallion as the key, and it'll open. Inside the new room, you'll find the Paper Heart relic. On use, this heals for up to 100% of the player's current health over 0.25 seconds. Players gain 1 stack per 10% of health restored, but after 15 seconds, 10% of your health is removed per stack. However, kills remove 1 stack. It's a bit of a convoluted relic, but hey, I didn't say all the rewards were going to be stellar. Leywise is also connected to a secret from the base game. If you're adventuring through the One True King storyline and you happen to also have the Great Hall dungeon, you can unlock a few more secrets. First, you'll need to speak to Leywise in the sewer. This will trigger the condition for the reward. Then, adventure through Losum until you reach the Great Hall map. There, you'll engage in the event and receive the Feastmaster's leftovers, which you can give to Leywise, insisting that he take. In exchange, you'll receive the White Glass Bead. This ring applies a shield for 15% of your max health every time you perfect dodge, lasting for 10 seconds. The Feastmaster's leftovers can also be used back in Ward 13 for another, less savory reward. If you turn the quest item into Dwayne and give him around 3 hours to cook, He'll reward you with the Meat Shake, a concoction that reduces damage by 8%. Honestly, that's not a bad concoction to have, especially if you're trying to tackle Apocalypse difficulty. Laywise was certainly the key to a good number of secrets, but 15 items in, and we still have more to discover. And these really don't fall into any particular category, but all tie back to the overall world of Loathsome and the One True King DLC. As you make your way through the Forlorn Coast, on your way to the castle, you'll stumble across a number of secrets. The first is a trait, Dark Pact, which reduces your Grey Health regeneration rate by -9% at level 1 up to -90% at level 10. If you're building around Grey Health modifiers, this is a must-have trait. To unlock Dark Pact, you must ring 3 bells found in different locations across the Forlorn Coast. The first bell is located right next to the small checkpoint in the Drowned Wen, right before the canal section with all the boats. Ringing that bell will summon a wave of Fey warriors which need to be fended off. The second bell can be found further up the hill closer to the castle. At some point you'll enter a big village square with a large axe-wielding enemy and a small pack of dogs. Kill them, and towards the back of the area is another bell. Ring that and another wave of Fey warriors will attack. The third bell is arguably the trickiest to find. Once you enter the King's Palace, you'll want to head up the stairs, but then drop down to the area below. This will give you access to a staircase that brings you back outside. Turn immediately right and follow that path to the cliffside. There you'll find the final bell. Shoot it and you'll unlock Dark Pact. If you're hunting traits, I have to assume by this point you've unlocked the Ritualist archetype and its gear. And if that's the case, you can scoop up another Forlorn Coast secret item, Band of the Fanatic. This is actually a staple of our insanely powerful Ritualist build, so if you haven't checked out that video, definitely give it a look. Getting this item is rather simple. When you first get into the Forlorn Coast, make sure you have the entire Ritualist set of armor equipped. If you don't know where to unlock the Ritualist or the armor, you guessed it, we've got a video for that too. Wearing the armor, head down to the docks where the preacher is giving a sermon. Instead of attacking, you'll be able to interact with the Dran that's on the pulpit. Wait for him to finish, interact with him, and he'll reward you with the Band of the Fanatic, which increases status effect damage by 25% and reduces status effect durations by 65%. At this point, it's time to dive into some dungeons, and I can't think of a better place to start than the Ethereal Manor, an injectable found usually within the Sunken Haunt, but can spawn as part of any Loathsome Fire map. Inside the manor, you'll have the opportunity to open one door at a time, and for the purposes of this first secret, you're looking for the quest item, Strange Talisman. You'll need to peer through the window of each door and look for that iconic red glow of an item, because you can only open one door per instance of the Ethereal Manor. Once you find the door, unlock it and grab the item. If you rinse and repeat this process, finding the Strange Talisman each time you enter the manor, you'll notice it getting bloodier. The fourth time you pick up the quest item, your bloody talisman will transform into the Death-Soaked Talisman, an amulet that increases all damage by 5% for each entity within 20 meters suffering from a unique negative status effect. This stacks 5 times, which means a whopping 25% increase to all damage if you maximize its potential. The Ethereal Manor is also tied to the DLC's biggest secret, Anguish, a handgun that functions as a shotgun, rifle, and machine gun all in one package. In all honesty, trying to explain the steps to unlock this weapon here would be rather challenging and would add another 8 minutes to the video, so instead I'll point you towards our full Anguish guide. And look guys, I get it, it's a lot of other videos that we're pushing you to, but that's all in an effort to save you time. We put dozens of hours into each project, and if we already have the content mapped out in another video, we're going to point you in that direction. It saves you time, keeps us from repeating ourselves, and in the end, it's a win-win. Moving from a creepy manor to a creepy lighthouse, our next set of secrets takes us to the Derelict Lighthouse map, where we'll find 2 items of interest. As you progress through the zone, you'll come upon a warehouse. Inside are 2 aberrations that you'll need to defeat in order to claim the lighthouse key. With your key in hand, you can head towards the lighthouse proper and unlock 2 secrets within that very same run. If you head across the bridge and into the actual spire of the lighthouse, you'll run into a locked door. Using the lighthouse key will give you access to a new area and the Lighthouse Keeper's Ring. While equipped, you'll automatically generate 3 mod power per second for each entity within 10 meters suffering from a negative status effect, stacking up to 5 times. Not bad. If you go into your inventory and inspect the lighthouse key, you can interact with it, flipping the guard to reveal the other side of the key. From your current location, head back to the bridge and find the path that leads off to the left side of the lighthouse. Drop down into the basement, and voila, a second locked door. Use that flipped lighthouse key to open up the workshop, and there you'll be able to pick up the Sparkfire shotgun. I love this weapon and honestly think it's one of the best in the game. It fires incendiary rounds and doesn't have a baked-in mod, so you have total freedom to build it up however you'd like. We go into this gun in both our Ritualist build guide video as well as our 5 insane DLC weapons video, so either one will give you more in-depth information about how to use the gun effectively. The final set of 3 secrets all take place in the Pathway of the Fallen dungeon, and I'll be honest, finding the final secret was a really cool moment. When you enter the zone, you'll start on the gray side of Lothsum. Progress through the zone and move through the hedge maze until you reach the Wraithliege aberration. Killing it will net you the Memoriam Medallion key. From this point, you have 2 choices. If you go back to the central area of the zone, you'll be able to use the medallion to open up the mausoleum. Inside, you'll be rewarded with the Gift of the Melancholy, an amulet that increases all damage dealt by 25% when your stamina is at 100% for 7 seconds. You can also take that same medallion and unlock a second item. Head back to the Wraithliege area and make your way into the building. Smash the painting leaning up against the wall to reveal an opening. Head inside, up the stairs, and at the end of the walkway will be a portal that ports you to the golden side of the zone, the Walk of Remembrance. Clear out the enemies on the opposite side until you can reach the mausoleum again, and you can use the same medallion to open up the door, granting you a different reward, the Gift of Euphoria. This amulet grants you 5% critical chance for 7 seconds whenever you spend 25 stamina, stacking up to 5 times. The thing here is that you can't get both items in one run, so you will need to re-roll Lothsum to get this dungeon to spawn at least twice if you want both amulets. While in the Walk of Remembrance map, you'll want to dig into your bags and pop on your Crown of the Red Prince, and yes, we have a video showing you how to find that and many more secrets in our video about the Imposter King. This will reveal a new pathway within the mausoleum, leading you down into a shrine area where you can pick up the cremated soul ash. This crafting material can be turned into Ava in Ward 13 for the Night Guard weapon mod, which summons a pair of ethereal swords that engage enemies with both melee and ranged attacks. There's also some really cool lore in this area about the Red Prince's mother, so if you're a story junkie, definitely check out this spot. And there you have it, the most elusive secrets of the One True King revealed. If you have any questions about the secrets we talked about today, let us know in the comments section down below, and we'd be happy to help you out. Friends, we have loved covering Thanks to Daybreak Games and Aliens Fireteam Elite 2 for sponsoring this video. You can buy the game starting August 25th. Remnant 2 is jam-packed with secrets. Geisha, you'll need to ensure somewhere in the world is a blood moon altar, and for the record, we've encountered this in more than one place. Luckily, if you do have it, it's pretty easy to find as it's called out on your map by this blue icon. If you don't get a blood moon altar on your playthrough, remember you can always re-roll your Geisha map in adventure mode and try again. That's the best way to farm for secrets, and in this case, the summoner archetype item. Before we talk about the specific summoner details, let's take a look at what else this vendor has to offer, and as you can see, you'll have to pay for each item with the Blood Moon Essence currency. There's the Faded Grimoire, the crafting item used to create the summoner archetype item. Keep in mind, not only will this cost you the 15 Blood Moon Essence required, but also 5 Luminite crystals and 1500 scrap. You'll also be able to use the Blood Moon Altar to pick up a whole host of summoner-related items, including the Soul Guard Ring, which grants you a stack of Bulwark for each active summon. For those that don't know, Bulwark is a damage mitigation buff that reduces incoming damage. This will run you about 5 Blood Moon Essence. There's also the Soul Anchor Necklace. This one is actually insane. Each time you perform a summon, you gain a buff that increases all damage dealt by 20% for 30 seconds. This is likely to be a staple of any summoning build for quite some time. This potency is reflected in the price, costing 10 Blood Moon Essence, 3 Illuminite Shards, and 1,000 scrap. Finally, everyone loves a new set of armor, and players can pick up the knotted armor set for the right price. The total cost for all 4 pieces is 25 Blood Moon Essence and 1,950 scrap. The real question at this point, though, how do you obtain the all-important Blood Moon Essence? Well, periodically, the sky in Yeisha will turn red, indicating a blood moon is present. This is purely a timing thing and will change as you move between the Yeisha tile sets. We believe you can force the possibility of a blood moon by bouncing back and forth between different zones you've unlocked within Yeisha, but it's hard to verify that without direct confirmation from the developers. Let us know in the comments if you tried this method and it worked for you. Once you encounter a blood moon, make your way to one of the tile sets that are themed with jungle assets. A couple examples by name are the Forbidden Grove, the Faithless Thicket, and the Far Woods, but of course, there are others. As you explore, you'll notice these floating purple orbs known as wisps of Blood Moon Essence. These can literally spawn anywhere in these jungle zones and sometimes can even be clumped together in random corners of the map, so make sure to explore everything. Shoot them and the Blood Moon Essence will make its way into your inventory. This is the currency that you need to collect. Something to note, treat these as an extremely rare currency. While multiple may spawn in a tile set, they won't respawn once obtained. You'll need to re-roll your campaign or adventure mode to get them again, so spend wisely. Our experience is that you can expect to get somewhere between 20 to 25 during one full Yeisha clear, sometimes less, sometimes more. Once you've obtained 15 Essence, head back to the Blood Moon Altar and pick up the Faded Grimoire. Take that back to Ward 13 and speak to Wallace, and he'll craft your new archetype item. This will cost you an additional 10 Luminite Crystals and 1,000 scrap, but you will finally, at the end of your journey, have access to the Summoner archetype. We hope you found this
I see you, traveler. I knew you'd say that. I'll see you again, traveler.
They'll kill us all! Kill us first! You'll have to do better than that!
Bag's full. Won't fit. Do this.
Stop them!
Kill him! isn't looking good.
Captain. Captain. No. Pick me. Find me. I want me, bro. 10. Not me. Top 10. Captain. No. Pick me. Find me. I want me, bro. 10.
Có thể. Hãy giúp tôi trả lời 1001 câu hỏi vì sao cái bảng swatch son của mấy hãng Nhật lại cứ như thế này nhờ. Má ơi, cái màu này nếu chỉ nhìn ảnh hãng thì thề là tôi sẽ không bao giờ chọn đâu. May có con bạn cứ nằng nặc, đẹp lắm mày cứ thử đi. Uầy, đẹp thật mấy bộ ạ. Bảo son 2N cũng khối người tin. Đầu tiên là 2N kết lip Monster 06 2AM và 12 Ruby Spoke. Nhìn swatch của hãng thì tôi còn tưởng 06 là màu nâu tím trầm đậm, nhìn dé ngang. Ai dè lên môi lại có độ trong, màu đỏ pha mận rất sang, đánh một lớp thì nhẹ nhàng, trồng thêm lớp là ra vibe quyến rũ ngay. Còn màu 20 thì nhìn ảnh hãng vừa trầm vừa lạnh nhưng lên môi sắc hồng đỏ vừa đủ nên nhìn rất tươi mà không hề chói. Chất son thì đúng cái tên lip monster rồi, nó quái thật đấy, mềm môi, bóng nhẹ lúc đầu rồi tiệp lại khá đẹp, độ bám thì ăn uống ê hề mà môi tôi vẫn còn màu base kiểu căng mọng nữa chứ. Lên thớt tiếp là chiếc son có màu của Muji, lip gloss màu 03 pink brown. Thế quái nào ảnh hãng nhìn màu nâu đậm còn có tí ánh cam, tôi còn tưởng kén da cực kỳ. Ai dè lên môi lại ra một màu hồng nâu trong trẻo, bóng mọng, nhìn môi có sức sống hẳn. Em này thiên về dưỡng và tạo độ bóng hơn là che phủ màu môi nên hợp mấy nàng thích kiểu môi căng căng tự nhiên, điểm trừ là độ bám không thể đòi hỏi như son lì, ăn uống xong chắc phải dặm lại. Rồi tới cứ lửa thị giác mang tên Chemex Stay on Balm Rouge màu 20 cotton peony, nhìn ảnh hãng cứ tưởng hồng san hô nhạt nhòa nhưng lên môi thực tế lại vừa dịu vừa tiểu thơ, kiểu màu hồng cam trong trẻo, dễ dùng hàng ngày, dạng ban nên vừa lên màu vừa dưỡng môi, có SPF chống. Hãy giúp